Hi there, this is Jenny Hallett. I lost my 26-year-old daughter, Brittany Rose Hallett, to alcohol addiction about 10 years ago. And so I'm here just really trying to help speed up the learning curve for anyone with any kind of alcohol or other drug uh, addiction. And so today I just really want to talk about some different treatment options. I can remember when I was first going through this with my daughter, just being so overwhelmed and not knowing where to turn, what type of treatment she needed, what type of doctor, where I could send her to get her help. It made it really difficult because she was an adult. And so there's, of course, privacy laws. So, there wasn't really anybody telling me, this is what she needs to do to try to get into recovery, this type of program or treatment or whatever. So I just thought I would start out talking today about just some general terms so that you can do a little bit of research to find, different types of treatment options that might help you. So when it first started out, when I had to call 911 to come and get her to the take her to the hospital. And so she was admitted into the hospital. So that would be an inpatient hospital stay, of course. After that, we sent her into an inpatient residential treatment program. And this is where basically she lived there for, usually it's about 28 days, at least for the first time. Sometimes people will go in for 3 months, 6 months, or even a year. Personally, I know my daughter needed 3 to 6 months, really probably a year, for her to have had a chance. But usually around 30 days is the initial time. Well, you're in there, you would meet with your peers, you have a counselor usually, that helps kind of create a recovery path kind of tailored to you. They usually include different types of peer meetings like AA or NA or Smart Recovery, those kind of things. And then they try to set you up with a plan for when you do leave the program. The next step down would be what would be called an outpatient treatment program, where a lot of like hospitals or places like that might have one of these programs set up where they would come in and meet with their peers. Of course, it would be monitored and, a coordinator there. And you come in several times a week. So that's the outpatient program. There's also more of an individualized type of treatment where you can go to a counselor or therapist, and they can work more one-on-one with you, really get to the root of, the problem and try to help you develop, strategies on coping mechanisms and just ways that you can try to, get into recovery. So there's also some free options out there, pretty much anywhere in the country you can go to these meetings that are talked to that are more peer related. One for one example would be AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, or NA, Narcotics Anonymous. There's a Smart Recovery, types of meetings. Some are faith-based, some are not. Smart Recovery tends to be a little more, you do have the power, and they give you, strategies to be able to try to cope and get into recovery. So, my recommendation is just to really do a lot of research on all of these, and, you can go to a couple different types. You don't have to limit yourself to one type either. And don't be afraid to go in. My daughter, oh my gosh, when we put her in the inpatient treatment program, she was like a deer in headlights. It was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, to drop her off there because she did not want to go. But I will tell you, by the very next day when I talked to her, she hardly had time to talk with me because it was almost, she had a camaraderie there, almost like being, in a dorm room, really. And she had made friends who could understand what she was going through. And it gave her a connection to people who got it, you know. So don't be afraid to try some of these different things. Um, there's also some different types of what's called medicated assisted treatment. And these can be a little controversial. Again, I am not a doctor. I'm not a professional counselor, therapist of any kind. I'm just a mother who has lost her daughter to addiction and trying to help give you options to research, do your due diligence and talk with professionals. But the medicated, they call it MAT for short, M-A-T, medicated assistant treatment programs. And so, for example, for alcohol use disorder, there's, and again, I don't know anything about these things, so do the research, but they have something called acamprosate. There's disulfiram and naltrexone. And for opioid use disorder, they have buprenorphine, methadone, and also the naltrexone. And so, again, I can't tell you whether these will work for you or even recommend them. But they definitely are something you might want to check out. Talk to a doctor, find out exactly, what they do. I believe, like some of them, like for instance, for alcohol use disorder, we were just starting to get into touching on this but unfortunately my daughter lost her battle before we really could get too far into this. But for alcohol use disorder, I know there's medication that if you take that, it will then make you feel, unpleasant symptoms if you do drink to help deter you. And for opioid use disorder, there are medications people can take to, I believe some of them, help reduce your craving, or I don't believe any of them can get you high, but I think maybe some, if you took a lot, maybe would, but in the doses they give you, I don't think they do. But again, ask all those questions. I know people that are in recovery that are on medicated assistant treatment program and living a very productive life. So I know it can be controversial because some people say, oh, well, they're just replacing one addiction with another. But the way I look at it, if I could find a prescription drug that would have helped my daughter to have been able to function without having to drink alcohol and she would still be here, yeah, I definitely would be researching that and looking into trying that out. Like I said, we kind of were in that stage when we ran out of time ourselves. But, if I had diabetes and I have to take insulin the rest of my life, so be it, So, do your research, see if any of these options will help, and, check around online, see if you can come up with other things, read articles. With addiction, information is king. I know it can be overwhelming in the beginning. You just don't know where to turn. You don't have somebody helping you figure these things out. And that's why I'm on here. I'm trying just to be a little bit of a nudge with some information to help point people in the right direction, because I didn't have anyone helping me try to figure any of this out at a time where I was extremely overwhelmed with, just the whole situation of all of it. So I hope that, something in here helps you. Please do your due diligence and check into it, but hopefully at least something in here will help you out. And that's all I have for today, and I will be talking with you very soon. And I love you forever, Sweet Pea, Brittany Rose.